line. So, I mean, I knew Jim all through the 90s. And you know, we had many back and forth and conversations. And I'll tell you, I learned more about the car business, the business, right, side of it from Jim than I did just about anybody.
It seemed like this, and I was always kind of fascinated because it seemed like this guy always got paid in watches.
Gold watches.
I'm like,
gold Rolexes.
And bottles of Pappy or something like that.
No, it was Louis the
Louis the 14th.
Yeah. Jim was a great writer.
He was a great writer. He was a great orator, and he had that infectious laugh.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Old Guys No Shit podcast in Dealercast Studios, where we bring together decades of automotive knowledge, all together in one place. Here's your host, Old Guys Who Know Shit.
Hey, what is going on, Dealercast Nation? I am Jason Harris.
And I'm Rob Mudd.
And I'm Larry Bruce.
And this is Old Guys That Know Shit.
No shit.
I
love that.
I laugh every
I
time.
love it every time. Every time. It gets me every time.
It's so perfect.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it's the no part that can.
Right.
No shit. Yeah. Old guys, no shit. Yeah, you're
shit.
old. You're some old mother.
You know what's funny is my mom caught an episode of
Oh,
us.
yeah? No way.
And so you know what the first thing out of her mouth was
No shit?
I didn't know you were old. So like I'm like, oh, so it had nothing to do with I know shit.
Right.
Yeah.
No, her more was she was more
concerned
with
about
the
you being
fact
old?
being old.
Well, because if you're old, that makes her older.
exactly,
Right?
exactly. So,
Okay, that's fair.
hey, Mom, thanks for watching.
Hello, Mrs. Harris.
Well,
Thank
guys,
you for watching.
we're
Sounds
back
like
in
Eddie
here.
Haskell. Hello, Mrs. Harris.
Well,
What
guys, I'm
beautiful cookies you have, Mrs. Harris.
Oh man,
okay. You know what?
we gotta get into the
I didn't
show.
mean
We gotta
that.
get into the show.
Yeah,
But you know
monster
what though?
cookies.
This is okay because this is exactly what I expected this show to be.
Today?
Because especially well, it is because for everybody out there watching, and listening, you know that we've recently lost a legend, in our
legend.
industry,
Absolutely.
Mr. Jim Ziegler, who truly was a legend. And you know what's funny is I've done a lot of podcasts. I've done over 100 podcasts with Jim. And this was majority of it. Like we can never actually get, we try to get something out, like just having a
just doesn't
conversation. Like we have an objective to try to get something, but then, you got 4 or 5 people all trying to conversate at the exact same time. And so.
His booming voice would take over.
He would like see, so he'd be the one that would like when we're all starting to go at each other, he'd kind of go, hey guys, settle down. This is my show.
Now the alpha dog
The alpha
speaks.
dog.
Nice.
Yeah. Look, it was really fun getting to know Jim. I only knew him, for the last few years, and doing an opportunity to do, the dog pound with him and help him get a lot of his old content into a podcast format and putting it out there, for the world to see. So it's funny. So I got to know kind of Jim in his later years, but then I also got to consume because we uploaded so much of old content. I mean, we backtracked like 400 some odd episodes and put them into a podcast format to be put out there. So there were definitely some, Jim Ziegler-isms in a lot of that stuff. And, I just kind of wanted to kind of kick this off of just from both of you guys, like how'd you guys meet Jim? And what was the first impression you guys had of him?
Well, Larry and I met.
We met
Jim.
there, but I met Jim
Yeah.
in 1987.
I met Jim back in 1994.
Yeah.
94, 95.
Yeah.
Wow.
I met Jim first in 87 at a training class when I was coming out of Carl Singer Finance School and getting ready to go into F&I in at Timmer Chevrolet in Houston, Texas. And it was a brief meeting. That's the first time I ever knew of him. after that, it was pretty much about about 1990, 1991, I guess. It's somewhere in there. Jim had done, I was running finance for Timmer Chevrolet, and Jim had done a 20 group meeting with Carol Smith, the dealer.
Wow.
Carol's a great guy. And so Carol comes back to the store. He says, well, I just had a meeting where we took our financials, our doc, into the 20 group meeting. Mm-hmm. And Jim Ziegler looked at all of them from an F&I standpoint because he's there doing F&I. He says, Larry, Jim looked at everybody. He looked at everybody in the room. He said, I can help everybody in this room except that guy.
And he pointed at you.
No, I wasn't there.
Okay,
I wasn't at the 20 group meeting. I mean, because at the time I was running $2,200 a copy.
Wow.
On 52% finance penetration. I mean, we had a big credit union presence in Pasadena, Texas. So, every oil company in the world refines their gas there, right? So their oil there for gas. So, our finance penetration wasn't what we wanted it to be, but we were still running $2,200 a copy. And so Jim comes down to the store, and that's how I first got to know Jim personally. Mm-hmm. And then some years later, I started a company in 1999. So, I mean, I knew Jim all through the 90s. And we had many back and forths and conversations. And I'll tell you, I learned more about the car business, the business, right, side of it from Jim than I did just about anybody, right? Now, I learned a lot about selling cars from Clint McGee and Jackie B. Cooper. I learned F&I. I learned the mechanics of F&I from Carl Singer, right? I learned how to be an F&I manager from Jim Ziegler, right? And then, in 99, when we started AIM Data, I mean, I started getting to know Jim, and that's when we met. We would do Jim sales managers forums in Atlanta. And they were we had such a good time. And that, I'll let Rob pick it up from there.
Well, we'd fly down there once a month. We'd go down there once a month, and he would have a group in from all around the country, and it was GMs or finance guys. And we talked about how the up count, how do you generate the ups with your advertising? How do you count your ups, floor ups, and then how that gets TO'd into the meet and greet all the way through the sale. Mm-hmm. And it was really neat because it started at the top of the funnel, right, and it went all the way down to the end of the funnel. But here's an interesting story. Back in 2006, Jim Ziegler was up here, and we were attempting to roll out ZTV.com.
Yes.
Right? You remember that?
Yeah.
And we were putting his shows or his seminars videotaped. We built a landing page, website, and it was going to be subscription based.
Right.
And we were just way too early. It was just way too early.
Yeah.
15 years too early.
Easily.
And Jim was up here with Ralph Paglia. Remember Ralph Paglia?
Yeah.
They were right here. They got their signatures out on that wall. And we were doing ZTV, and him and Ralph were here, and it was fun. But obviously, it never launched because we launched it. It just never grabbed on.
The video streaming capability at that time just wasn't ready for that.
Except for here. So Cedar Falls, where you're sitting right now, was the first 1 gig city in the United States.
Really? Get that?
No, absolutely. The very first one.
I did not know that.
So back in the 90s, our governor got with the feds in a program for No Child Left Behind, right? Yeah. And so there was the Fed money and state money to put for local municipalities to put in their own fiber. So our town, Cedar Falls, voted on it and said, let's all in. So the Cedar Falls was all in, the state was all in, the feds were all in. and we put black dark fiber all throughout Cedar Falls.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so we were one of like 3 cities. That Chattanooga, Tennessee was the other one, in Lafayette, Louisiana. And so that was our whole push. I mean, I was going to Bangkok. I was going overseas, and we were doing live shows out of this studio because
That's
we had the
awesome.
bandwidth.
Oh,
and now we're a
nice.
10 gig city, so
Yeah.
it's unlimited. But that was the deal, right?
Right,
Because
right.
we could, and others couldn't. No one did it, right? Because so whatever. But that was a
Yeah.
great. That was a beginning of a long.
Well, so you would have had to host it. You'd have had to have hosted
I've
the
watched.
video.
I've watched some
here.
of those episodes.
No, I've
Did you?
watched
I have.
plenty of
Yeah.
those. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And then, oh gosh, what
Oh,
else?
you.
This Chop. We did videos with Chop
Yes.
out of
Right.
King of Cars, Josh
Yeah.
Tobin
Oh,
from Vegas.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We
the sexy blue genie.
Yeah, exactly. We did direct mail
my
campaigns
God.
with the dog and.
Oh, that's too good.
Yeah, I bumped into Josh in New Orleans in January at NADA. He's looking good.
Oh, yeah?
I bumped him after dinner. He's a good guy. I like Josh.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. So, okay, guys. Obviously, a lot of Jim's teachings have kind of changed, I think, us in many different ways, right? Your guys' time with Jim was around the F&I. My time with him was more around the internet battle plans, right? So,
Yeah.
you remember when he kind of transitioned over to, and that's when I first kind of became aware of him and was, I attended one in Atlanta, and this was before I even knew him, personally, and started doing podcasting and stuff with him. But I'm just kind of curious because there's just so many things Jim taught over the years. If you guys were to pick one thing, was there anything that just like something he taught that just impacted our industry and still is kind of we still do it that way because Jim taught it?
I'll say it real quick. Foursquare.
Okay, yeah, I was going to go there as well. So
I mean, I think
He was the
Jim
four-
had
he
an
was the
interesting
Foursquare.
way to do the
approach,
Foursquare,
yes,
an interesting approach to the Foursquare that I loved. I mean, we adopted it in our stores.
Yep.
And his approach to the Foursquare. I don't think I know he didn't invent the.
No, he didn't
No,
invent it,
no.
but
Right, but I
just
mean,
put his
he
Zieglerism
put
to it.
his signature on it. I'll tell you. I don't know about the industry, right? That was certainly one of them. F&I was, while Carl Singer and those guys taught me, like I said, the mechanics on how to be an F&I manager.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Ziegler taught me how to be an F&I manager that makes, real gross profit and sells the right things,
Yeah.
the right way. When we got, but Jim, when we started doing the sales managers forum, you guys have been around me long enough to know that I'm an egghead. Weirdly enough, because I shouldn't be, but I get real technical about things, and so Jim would always pull me aside at the sales managers forum when I was talk, and he would say, "Just tell them the time." Quit telling them how to build the damn watch, right? And I would. He. It took him several sessions, but he finally got me out of that because I would go in there and talk about how we built out the database and where the data came from and how we cleaned it and all this stuff. And I'd go into all this stuff, and the managers in the room just, okay, how's it make money?
What's it look like?
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that you bring up watches because you guys all know Jim was
Oh,
a
he
big
loves
fan.
it.
He's
Oh,
a big
yeah.
fan. Every car guy's a big fan, but Jim was a bigger fan.
Jim was a big fan of watches,
Especially his.
Yes.
And he had stories that went, and we're not talking like
I'll trade ya?
like a 2-minute story, but a
Right.
good 25-minute, of like, hey, this very specific person gifted me this watch after fundamentally changing his entire business for so many years, and I did, and then it was just, but it was always, it seemed like this, and I was always kind of fascinated because it seemed like this guy always got paid in watches.
Gold watches.
I'm like,
Gold Rolexes.
and bottles of Pappy, or something like that.
No, it was Louis the 14th. It was Louis the 14th.
Louis the 14th.
Yeah.
So it's just like, he would help me. I remember one time he was helping me actually write a contract for a client, and it was like, I'm going to show you how to write one so you can get a gold watch out of it. And I'm just like, so anyway, when you brought up watches, it just reminded me of this conversation we've had.
When we were doing business with Jim, Jim had set me up with Jerry Gambino, Gambino Ford, up and he pulls me aside. He says, "Larry, that name Gambino, that's real." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Jerry is a part of that family. He's not inside, he's outside, but he's still a part of that family." And so he says to me, "So tread lightly on how you do things when you do things with Jerry. Be careful, because I have a tendency to say what's on my mind, in case you guys haven't noticed." He's like, "Probably not the best idea here." And so we did business with Jerry for a long time, and Jerry was a great dude. And we never had a problem. He ran a little long on his payables, but and so one time we're actually, it's me, Jim, and John Staluppi.
Oh gosh.
And Billy
heavy.
Facillo.
Billy Facillo?
Yeah,
that's heavy duty.
Yeah,
that's big. That's doesn't get much bigger than that.
And we are in a cafe, literally white checkered.
Were you guys talking about the Hyundai sale? That they're gonna do?
No, we're not. We're talking. Jim's talking, and they're talking, and I'm just sitting there going, because it's straight out. I'm expecting a drive by any moment.
Yeah.
I'm real antsy. I'm facing the window, because if my car slows down, I'm talking.
I've got a good story about Billy Facillo that I'll share here in a second. That's a really good one.
So Jim's talking to about the receivables, and they're asking, "How's it going with Jerry?" Right? And Jim, and I'm letting Jim do all the talking, right? And Jim says, "Well, we got a little accounts receivable problem with Jerry." And Billy looks over.
You know how Jim says.
Billy, yeah. It's kind of like that. Billy looks over at Jim. He says, "Accounts receivable? We don't got no fucking accounts receivable. You want I take care of this for you, Jim?" And Jim's like, No, because he kind of knew what Billy meant.
And that's what Billy meant. That's exactly what Billy meant. So this was probably back in 2004. No, it would have been 98, 99. Maybe it was 2000. I'm in our office on a Saturday. I don't know why I was there, but the phone rings. Well, I pick it up. Hello, Mud Advertising. Hey, this is Billy Facillo. Hello, Mr. Facillo. How are you doing? Hey, I got this mailer in the mail. That's big. It's big. It's huge. I like it. Can you come see me? I said, yeah, absolutely. When would you like? Well, I want you to come see me next week. And so call my assistant, have her set you up at the Hotel Syracuse, and then tell her we'll have dinner at Antonio's. I'm like, okay, hangs up. Following Monday, I call his assistant, set the thing up, and I don't know where I was flying into, but it was somewhere to get there. And so I get into Syracuse, go to the Hotel Syracuse, check in, and then I go to Antonio's. And I was told, go to Antonio's, go to the bar and ask for Billy. And so, okay. So I go to Antonio's. Antonio's has a door, and that's the only window. I don't even know if it had any windows, right?
Well, there's a reason for that.
Right, exactly. And I walk in there, and this was back when lime green suits were kind of in vogue, right?
Okay.
Dude, are you back in the 70s?
No, this was the 70s, man. This was like the late 90s. It was...
there was a moment. There was a small moment.
Small moment.
We'll give you that.
All right.
So I walk in, everybody is in black. And the only females over there were the bartender and the waitresses, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so I walk in, I go to the bar. I said, "Hey, I'm here to meet Billy Facillo," and she points to him right down that way. Didn't say a word, just pointed. And I turn and I look, and there's Billy Facillo holding court, his back to the wall, sitting in the chair, and he says, "Hey, look! It's Mud from fucking Iowa."
100%.
Right?
That's Billy. No doubt.
And so we went on and had a good time that night, and then business with Billy. Billy Facillo was a good operator.
Yeah, he was.
He was a good man too, and I enjoyed Billy.
John's a great operator.
Well, there's definitely been some great ones over the years. For
But
sure.
back to Jim. I loved reading Jim's articles in
Dealer Magazine.
Dealer Magazine. And Jim prided himself on being the dealer advocate. And
Yes.
he was. Love him, hate him, whatever, don't believe him. He believed in dealers. And he would go tooth
Toe
and
to
nail.
toe.
With,
Toe to toe.
The drag outs he had with Farley, right? When he was at Ford.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I know. I've been told
Fields,
in
Mark
details.
Fields.
No, I was at that meeting.
You were at the Farley meeting?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I was at that meeting with Jim. So Jim gets up on the stage, right? And then I don't. It wasn't Cliff, but I'm trying to remember who it was that asked him about Jim Farley.
Oh,
And he says, well,
Charlie Vogelheim was
it might have been Vogelheim. It could have been, but it was somebody. And all I remember, I don't remember who asked him the question. All I remember is Jim going, well, you know, when you see a turtle on top of a fence post, chances are somebody put him there. And he was talking about Bill Ford. And I'm going, oh, dear God. And I'm looking over, I'm thinking to myself, you know, it's a really good idea. It's really good that we didn't get that Ford Direct contract.
No
Because that might have been a trouble right now. But, you know, the one thing I always appreciated about Jim, and we did not always agree.
No, that was the thing. Jim was really good about surrounding himself around
people who
people
like Jim.
that didn't just like him for who he was, but like, you know, like I was even worried when he asked me to come on his podcast. I'm like, dude, you do realize like me and you actually don't see eye to eye on a fair amount of stuff.
Right.
It's fine. We're going to have a good time. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, so Jim would, he would always tell me, I don't agree. Or and we get in some knockdown dragouts, man.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, and that's what I always loved about him, because I don't know if I got it from him. I could have, right? Because that's my personality. Look, we can disagree, and then go have dinner,
Sure.
Yeah.
right? I mean, we can disagree and go have a beer, but we were always close, and we were always, you know, okay with one another, even when we were mad at each other.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You know, but at the end of the
That is very much so a Jim thing.
yeah, it's a Jim thing. I mean, and you just had to understand that about Jim. You know, Mike Roscoe and I, you know, we're good friends since the very first digital dealer. And you know, Roscoe, there were always two people that no matter what got taken care of at Digital Dealer. Sometimes I made the third here and there.
Now, I've heard a
but-
few digital dealer stories. but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's
Jim's
some
got
we
me
don't go into.
digital dealer, yep.
But, you know, Roscoe always made sure Jim had a spot, and rightly so. I mean, Jim hadn't deserved to be there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
even with the adult friend finder thing. Hey, look. Hey, it's 100. Hey, he had the balls to go out there and say it.
No.
But you know, and then there was Tim Deese.
Oh, Tim. I love Tim.
And Tim Deese, you know, Tim might be the last. He's the last surviving now.
Yeah.
Car Mohican.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Tim is the last surviving Car Mohican.
Took ups on a dirt lot down in Louisiana.
No doubt. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, Mike Roscoe and Jim, while they didn't part with Digital Dealer the same way, and they didn't part, they're, you know, if this storm doesn't keep me out of there, Mike and I will be there Friday.
You know, Ziegler Jim made that magazine.
Yeah, and
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. But before I think he ever got involved in it, I was not necessarily impred with most of the writings.
Yeah,
in there. I think
they were
will tell you-
long.
Yeah,
They were
I'll tell you.
long.
Yeah. I mean, you had to be really, you need to take a really good bathroom break in order to read Jim's entire article.
But they made sense. They were
they made
logical.
total sense. No. Jim was a great writer.
He was a great writer. He was a great orator, and he had that infectious laugh.
Yeah. And while you know, Jim and Roscoe Roscoe made Jim, Jim made Roscoe.
Yeah.
Those guys together, separately, I don't know that Jim gets the audience, because
No,
you know,
right. Yeah, you
Dealer
give the reach.
Magazine eventually, you know, kind of squishes out Auto Exec.
Yep.
from
Yep.
NADA.
Yep.
And now it's the only one that's dedicated to the dealer. You read in automotive news, you're not getting what you need from the automotive news.
It's so
right?
damn liberal.
As a dealer. Well, as a dealer, you're just not getting tactical stuff.
No, you're not.
One
You're
thing
getting
you always do with Jim is you walked away with something you could go use.
Yep.
Well, yeah, like you said, he had always been a major advocate for the dealer.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
You know, one of the things I was always, every conversation I've ever had with Jim started off the exact same way. Hey, Jim, how's it going? I'm having the best damn day of my life, you know? And I'm just like, and he would say it in a tonality and at a level that there was just, like, it was authentic. It wasn't that he had said that 10,000 times earlier, and
you knew he
probably
it.
had. He actually meant it. Like that moment when I was talking to him, that day was the best damn day of his life. You know, like it was just, that was something that I always fundamentally was fascinated with him. Now,
did you know that Jim was an all-star wrestler?
Yeah.
Okay, I have heard stories.
I've seen pictures. I don't have them. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Debbie would give them to me, but I would love to have one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, for me, you know, watching Jim during like internet battle plans, right? For me, it kind of like, I'm like, this is like the dealer that you know, right? Like this is every stereotypical kind of like dealer this is him. This is, he's wearing the watch.
Yep.
He's got the suit. All right. He's consumed 16 beers before he got up on stage. You know, he's like, to me,
at the internet battle plan.
Maybe it was after. No, probably not
before
there.
Before then,
I definitely heard. You know, he was a big Belushi fan, so I think there were some similarities.
I will tell you that, you know, Jim. I've never ever seen Jim drink a beer.
I haven't either.
I've seen him drink
wine.
Wine.
I've
seen him drink Louis.
Yes.
I've seen him drink a lot of Louis. I think Roscoe and I footed a $5,000 bill of Louis one night. But Roscoe looks over at me. He's like, "You're splitting this, right?" How did I get pulled into this shit? I mean, God dang.
But
man.
it was this big, thirsty, you know, just bigger than life character. It was just like, he played hard. He had fun. He loved people. He loved this industry. I swear he would. He'd probably take a smackdown at anybody that would have said any type of shit about this industry. Yep. You know, and you saw that for his entire career of how he fought for the dealers, articles that he wrote. Yep. There are definitely some people he pissed off along the way.
Sure.
You know,
Didn't care.
because he cared more about the dealers and
pissed off a few dealers, and that's okay too.
He did.
Yeah,
you know
because
what?
it's all based off real
get over it.
factual experience and knowledge.
Yes.
Here's what you couldn't say, guys. Wrong. You couldn't say that because at the time he was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now things may have changed that made what he predicted not happen. But you know, during the entire Ford collection
deal,
was 100%
right.
He was 100% right every step of the way.
Every step.
Every step of the way. Predicted that whole thing down to the end. There was no way Nasser was going to fix that.
No, he didn't like him, Nasser, much. Finbar O'Neill, too. He took his shot.
Yeah, Finn, he took a couple of shots at Finn.
The Mitsubishi.
He got the Mitsubishi thing dead on.
100% right.
But,
That's true. He did predict a fair amount of things in the industry that did actually kind of play out. I don't think a lot of people actually know, because I think a lot of people know Jim from his videos and from his battle plans and stuff like that. I don't think they realized how many articles he wrote and how many things he predicted that actually did come true.
I know more of the operator side than the. Jim and I kind of got sideways on his battle plan stuff because I didn't believe in some of the things that he's doing, some of the people he's working with. And I let him know.
Well, some of the people, yeah. Well, he found that out himself later on down the road, too.
Yeah. And anyway.
yeah, I think I did the first two. And then the people we were bringing in, I'm like, I gotta step back, Jim. I can't do this.
But I did remember you were with us when we did the Vegas seminar.
Okay, I don't know this one, so clearly I need, because all you guys had were about 4 words and you both broke out in laughter. So I do need to know this story. Okay, please.
Well, I mean,
It was thrown together. We really didn't put a lot.
No.
We didn't put a lot into it.
We had too many alphas in the group, right?
Maybe.
And everyone was running to do their own thing. And we were doing these seminars out in Vegas. And we all
There
put
was
some money
one.
in it,
Yeah.
and no one showed up.
No, there's one guy.
dude, one guy.
No, come on.
No, I shit you not.
No,
we did
no.
one.
Come on.
Yeah, we did the.
But we did the whole seminar for
we did
one
for
dude.
one dude.
No, you guys did not.
We did.
No, we did.
Oh
We
yeah,
did.
100%. And Jim was
Furious.
fuming. Oh my God, he was so
Pissed.
mad.
And that was the end of those.
Yeah, Rob and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. We thought it was
Yeah, he did
funny.
not. He was pissed.
No, he was not happy.
Were you with us when we went on the road show? Did the road shows once?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. But Jim would try anything.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That deep voice, yes, Rob. Let's try that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we would do the sales managers forums, and there would be 50, 80, sometimes 100 sales managers in there when I'd walk in there.
They loved him.
And they
loved
him.
him.
And we're not talking. These weren't internet managers. These were decision makers.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
if there were 80 people in the room, 40 of them were dealers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dealer
Right.
principals.
Tim Deese, guys showed up his joint.
Yeah.
They were dealer principals,
Dealer
and GMs.
Yeah.
Because they commanded they knew the business. Tim Deese taught me really the used car business.
Yeah.
Right. He taught me the nuts and bolts of how you do it, how you make money, back to basics. That was
Yeah.
his plan.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it still works today.
Oh, yeah,
Because,
100%.
Carry costs, daily carry costs, line ready.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to take it on trade? How much recon?
Yeah.
Frontline ready.
135.
Yep. He
By day 5, that thing's got to be frontline ready.
Yep.
and him and those two guys, really, him and a guy named Steve Chernish, those three guys probably taught me. Well, they did. They taught me that. My dad taught me everything pretty much. Well, I've had a lot of luck in my life and a lot of good mentors, but those guys stick out.
They do stick out. Well, look, guys, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation, and I think anybody out there watching and listening right now, if you guys have ever met Jim, or if you went to any of his events, or even watched some of his videos, we would love to hear what your first interaction was with Jim in the comments below. That'd be absolutely awesome. But before we go, guys, if there was just one thing you were to say of just how Jim impacted you guys personally, what would be that one thing?
His work ethic.
Yeah, he never stopped, did he?
No.
When he was on, he was
His
on.
His work ethic.
Like he showed up like it was the Super Bowl every day.
Every time, prepared, the word tracks. And really, what you need to look for in your career is something you love, right? Like Jim.
Yeah.
And if you didn't love it, he couldn't do it. He couldn't be like that, right? He absolutely loved it. But then, his wife, Debbie, he had the support to be able to do what he wanted to do with his life. And everybody in the car business is better for him, or have no Jim Ziegler, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, whether, like I said, like him or love him, or hate him or love him, you respected his knowledge and you respected his work ethic for sure.
100. And
nobody would say differently.
So there's so many personalities.
Yes.
In this car business, right?
Yes.
And you can go linear time, and Jim will be one of those guys, right?
Yeah.
That was a legend.
Yeah.
He did evolved. Like I've watched a lot of his old videos. I watched him kind of evolve over the years. But you're right. Yeah. Like, I mean, since when he started to, now he was in the industry the entire time.
Yes. And he just loved to work, and you could tell by the end of on his way out, he was still banging on the keyboards, spreading his knowledge. And he liked people. He loved people. He loved to help people too. I mean, he helped us a lot. So thank you, Jim. Yes. You won't be forgotten.
No doubt. No doubt.
No.
I will always remember, because he started everyone with, "I'm coming up from Florida with my mattress on my roof."
Driving into Atlanta.
Everyone. He won't forget that story.
I was just about ready to say that. Like, the mattress on the car coming to Atlanta.
Coming into Atlanta. 100%.
Was he from Jacksonville, Florida?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
so
him.
what you may not know about Jim is he was a DJ.
Yeah, I did know that.
No, I did know that.
Yeah.
Wolfman Jack, right?
He was a DJ in Jacksonville. And have you seen the picture of him with the gun,
beard?
with
And the beard?
with the beard and the gun and the alligator or something? What was it? I can't remember the exact.
He was a big
I can
dude,
see,
too.
Yeah, he was a big boy.
How many 70-year-old guys you know that are pushing 320 pounds of weight?
Yeah.
He loves to bench press.
So I will always remember Jim for that. But the impact Jim made on my life was early in my car career. I mean, he helped me be a better car F&I manager, a better car dealer. When I finally got there, he always had a smile on his face. He always supported every dealer, no matter, even if it was wrong, he would support you and then pull you aside and say, hey man, you might want to rethink a couple of these things. But he's gonna be he's gonna be missed. No matter, I just hope that the industry needs to remember him better than they did Jackie B. Cooper.
Some of the others. I agree with you. I mean, it's kind of funny. There's a lot of industries out there that have Hall of Fames, and I was actually thinking about this as I was actually writing this up, because who would be Cooper would be a 100%.
Oh, Jackie B, Clint McGee.
Clint, yes. There's just a lot. Maybe we need to do that. Maybe we need to come up with that. Maybe we're going to take this offline. But no, for me, I'm with you. I sold more cars because of Jim. All right, his internet battle plans, even though I didn't always necessarily totally agree with the entire battle plan, there were elements that I used, and I will 100%. We sold more cars.
And that's what Jim would always say. You don't have to you take pieces and you use it and
take one
weave it
thing
into your deal.
The other thing I was always fascinated with is whenever I talk to him on the phone. Whenever I talk to him, and I'm sure you guys experience this as well, is that it didn't matter what was going on. There could be a hurricane. In fact, actually, I think I was talking to him at one point in time, and there was some significant weather. And it was like, it didn't matter. You were the most important person at that given moment whenever he talked to you. It was just like the rest of the world was of no concern. You were the most important person.
And his voice cadence put you...
100%.
It was a transfixed you, right? In the cadence of how he used his voice. He was a master at it, right?
And
his word tracks, his inflections, and just his presence on stage and how he told a story. I mean, he had the gift.
The other thing that's really stuck out for me was his commitment to Debbie.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm just, I know this is the automotive industry. It is not the most, it doesn't have a track record for, having successful relationships because of just how demanding
Well, hell, he
this
took
industry
Debbie
can
every
be.
20 group thing he ever went
and that's
to.
what I'm saying.
I mean,
It's like, so I was so utterly impressed of how he just was always just, and every time I talked to him, there was always a story to be. Debbie was literally right there within an arm's length, and just I was just impressed with that.
She kept the money.
She kept the money.
She kept the money.
I could never work with my wife. I'm gonna be honest with you. So I was utterly impressed that he just was able to just.
I wouldn't say anything.
Okay. He's not saying that online.
No comment.
All right, guys. Look, I know we're at the tail end of our time, and for everybody out there watching, listening right now, we hope you really appreciate this. I hope you guys have your own memory of Jim. Like I said, we would love to hear your thoughts. One of the biggest compliments that you can give us is to share the show. It really does help us a lot in getting the message out there. And this is one of those episodes that I really do hope you guys share, because I just would love for people to have this conversation and share the stories. That's what we want to hear.
Share your Jim Ziegler stories.
Because everyone's got one if they know.
Everybody,
That's right.
Just about everybody's got one.
Everyone does. For everybody out there watching, listening, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
You all have yourselves an amazing day.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Old Guys Know Shit podcast with your host, Old Guys Who Know Shit. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.